Welcome back. Now, in a country that's facing many difficulties and crises, it's easy to lose hope, especially when leaders across the board seem incapable of implementing workable solutions. Unemployment is currently high, poverty is worsening, the economy is not growing at a rate needed to create jobs, hunger is swelling as 6 million South Africans are food insecure every day. Corruption has eroded confidence in those who hold public office. But all hope is not lost. We in the media focus a lot on the big stories, which tend to be about the negative stuff, the negative developments. But there are many untold positive stories in our country. When I read Mark Heywood's opinion piece on the Daily Maverick a few weeks ago about this, I was inspired to have a panel discussion. Mark is joining us now for that, together with the Good Things guy, Brent Lindeque, and Linzwa Foundation founder, Lindiwe Dube, who hails from KwaZulu-Natal, Business Person of the year 2018 and Woman of Influence 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today, and thank you very much for joining us. Brent, you're joining us via Zoom. The other guests are with me in studio. It's a pity. We could all have been here, but I know you're a busy guy. The Good Things guy is always busy. Mark, what led you to pen that article?
Well, Dan, I'm also working in the media for Maverick Citizen, and you know, every day I have the privilege of going to different communities, meeting different individuals, and what I find almost every single day is good people, good individuals who are working in education, in health, in food security, in early childhood development. People who come from very, very difficult personal circumstances but are able to overcome those personal difficulties and to lead and to inspire. And I just felt, as I looked at these stories, that we in the media, we in the country, need to do more to empower the good, to recognize the good, to join up the good, and to crowd out the bad. So I told a story about 2 people, but it's about thousands of people in reality.
Yeah, and one of the people you focus on in the article is a disabled person who's otherwise bodied in terms of their ability, and they've come through with shining colors.
Absolutely. I mean, that was one person. Another person was a person who has been homeless for 4 years, a recycler in Johannesburg, and who completed his MA whilst he was homeless and as a recycler. So it points to the power that we all have within us, and I feel we have to cultivate that power, empower the power.
Yeah, and I'm hoping in this discussion some people will be inspired. Lindiwe, you're listening to Mark there. He's saying he's in the media space as well currently, but he's got a rich pedigree of human rights activism in the country. But you involved in KwaZulu-Natal. Just tell us, I mean, in what space, what are you doing there as Linzwa Foundation?
Thank you for the invite. I will say almost everything. I know it will sound crazy, but we started a soup kitchen because when we were visiting families, there were people that were on chronic medication, and some already started defaulting. Then some of the families, you find that there are kids that are molested by their uncles or the relatives. So we decided to start this one-stop shop, which we call a soup kitchen, where they will come for support groups. We give them a plate of food, and then BB Bread came in, they donated loaves of bread. So it became our daily job that they come in, we give them food, and then the numbers grew. Because honestly, we are facing a very difficult situation.
I mean, you had me in my intro, I mentioned 6 million South Africans daily are hungry.
Yeah, people are hungry, they are unemployed, and also the youth is faced with, they're using drugs. So those are the problems that you are dealing with.
What sparked what sparked your interest to say, let me do something for the community? Was it a particular incident, or you just looked around generally, you saw that you were facing a challenge in your community?
2013, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So I got ill, very sick, and I thought I was dying. After 6 months, I realized, no man, I'm still alive. So maybe God is trying to tell me something. My life continued, I was working. Then I told myself each and every day, at least one person must say thank you to me. Even if I gave him an advice or I gave them something visible, but someone must say thank you as a token of appreciation to God for giving me life. Then I lost my job because of EGPV at work. Then I had to leave. At that time, I didn't even know that I was facing EGPV. It was after I left. Then I realized, no, man, let me just go around and educate females about GPV.
So from your own personal circumstances, you were inspired. Brent, when you hear such a story, I mean, you are known as a good things guy in the country, and that movement started just by yourself and a group of friends. I mean, are there still a lot of good things in our country?
Oh, every single day. Good Things Guys, now 8 years old. We are inundated with good news stories every single day. Our email, our DMs, the social media is overflowing with South Africans who want to share these good news stories like Lindiwe's. Listening to her talk is just absolutely inspirational. I like to say there's a quote by Fred Rogers that says, in times of tragedy, we need to look for the helpers because they will always be there. And it's people like Lindiwe and the hundreds and thousands of South Africans that roll up their sleeves and get involved either with volunteerism or just sort of in their communities to do good, that are being those helpers and are the good news stories that we are able to feature and talk about every single day.
You know, last night on We the Nation, which I host here on eNCA, one of the participants says, feeding the nation is not charity. It's something that we have to do. Our constitution, for example, you know, says we have a right to food. So that's just one aspect. Now, the question I'm going to ask, Brent, I'm going to start with you. What can we do to give momentum to that kind of an approach in the country? During COVID-19, for example, many people stepped in to help here and there as the government was battling, and these were just South Africans, ordinary citizens. How do you think we can create momentum of these good things?
So I think it's action, right? We can all talk about it. We can all think about it. We can all say that we want to do something good, but it's that action, getting off your bum and actually doing something. There was a beautiful story that we featured last year about a mom here in Johannesburg. She wanted to teach her kids how to give back and good. So every single Friday, she would give both her toddlers, I think they were about 2 and 4 years old, she would pick them up from nursery school and she would give them each a loaf of bread. And she would say to her kids, now you choose someone to give that bread to. You give someone that food for the next week. The nursery school saw what she was doing, asked her, what is going on here? Every Friday you pick up your kids, you're giving them this loaf of bread. What's going on? She explained, and the nursery school themselves decided to implement that so that every single child that is in that school got a loaf of bread every Friday. How do we make a difference? We do it. And when we do it, it inspires other people to make that difference as well.
Other thoughts, Lindiwe? How do we get this going more and more? Because the country is in a mess at the moment.
I think it will start with love. Love your neighbor. Love any human being on earth. Because when I started, I didn't even have a cent. I had a vision to assist. I had a vision to start a soup kitchen. And I didn't even have food to cook that week. But already I invited people to come to the launch. Because I had a vision. And I believe that it will happen. People came in, Linzwa Foundation came in and they donated food. Friends came in, Zulu Arts Club, and the soup kitchen stood.
Yeah, how big is your foundation today in terms of the people you are reaching?
Okay, we had to divide the days. On Wednesday in the morning from 11 o'clock to 1:30, we are dealing with females that are GPV victims. But we don't want to call them victims, they are survivors. And also champions of, because they've came out, they are talking about it. Then in the afternoon, we serve the youth that want to stop using drugs. We've already came up with the name, a sober movement, because they want to remain sober. Then Saturdays, it's the OVC, Orphaned and Vulnerable Children. And the number grew. We started from 50, now we are having 220 kids. Sundays, it's anyone who's on chronic medication.
It's a lot of areas you're covering. Mark, we in the media, you've pointed out in your article, and you use a quote here from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who said, unfortunately, the media do not report on these big, beautiful stories, and you make that point. I mean, we have a role, I guess, as media in helping to create a momentum and growth of generosity in the country and shining that light of hope in dark places.
Yes, we do. I mean, I think the media is guilty often of certain big problems. One of those problems is that we have to tell the bad news, but we're fixated with it. We're fixated with the corrupt. We're fixated with everything that's broken. And it's not that things aren't corrupt and that they're not broken, but there's another side to the story. By telling the stories of people like Lindiwe, listening to people like Brent, Lindiwe is extraordinary. But there are, I promise you, there are thousands of people doing exactly what Lindiwe is doing in different spheres, but we don't see them. We don't give them names. So quite often they feel isolated from each other, not recognized. I think we have to build a movement. As Brent said, a movement of action, not a movement of talk, but a movement of action of good people that shames bad, that shames corruption, and tips the balance in our country.
And I mean, we're facing tough times, Brent, at the moment in the country. But in his article, Mark Heywood reminds us that this country was forged in adversity. I mean, from the anti-apartheid struggle into this democracy, it was a lot of adversity. So we can rise to the challenge. We can rise to the challenge as South Africans to really create a better life for everybody, to do a little to help somebody on a daily basis.
Yes, 100%. I love what Mark says about, we need to turn the table and we need to speak about the stories where people are speaking out against corruption, and also the good news stories. In the 8 years that Good Things Guy has been alive, I've seen the media, I've seen them change, I've seen those good news stories peek out every now and then. And I think when there's more of it, then it'll create a space where more of it will want to be shared because of the demand for it. So yeah, the good news stories are out there. I think as South Africans, sometimes our job, and it's not just the media's job, our job as South Africans is to seek out those good news stories. We can sometimes get bogged down in what's going on around us. Important, we have to know what's happening. So thank you to everybody that works in the news space that brings us those stories. But as South Africans, our responsibility is to seek out that good news and become activists, become active citizens, make a difference within your own community, neighborhoods, towns, and let's grow that hope and those good things.
Brent, thank you very much. I know you've got another engagement in less than 2 minutes that you have to go to. I'm going to have to let you go, but thank you very much. I'm just going to conclude our discussion now with Sis Lindiwe here and Mark. So you're hearing that from Brent at the moment, and I don't know what it makes you think, Sis Lindiwe, about the way forward as we begin to wrap up our discussion.
I would say it starts with the media, because honestly, it's not as if people like us don't invite the media, but you will invite the media. They will confirm. I won't say they confirm, but they will say no. We love the story. We'll come. Let's just say maybe on the 11th hour. Then they will just say no. We can't come now. Someone died. We have to go cover. So for me, it seems like the media is more interested in sad stories, because, as you said, not that, and as he said, it's not only me who is doing.
There's thousands of other.
There's thousands of other people that are doing good work in the community.
Yeah, Mark, how do we inspire the way forward?
I think we inspire the way forward by telling stories about people like Lindiwe. You know, sitting here, I'm inspired. I want to find out more. I want to talk to her afterwards. But I think every person listening and every person in this country who feels powerless needs to recognize that actually we have a lot of power. You have a lot of power in your community, you have power in your family, you have power in your workplace, you have power in your school. Use that power, use it for good. You will find that doing good is very satisfying, very rewarding, and gradually it will grow.
Yeah, and it's not about size. From what you were saying, Lindiwe, you had nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just lost a job, and you were dealing with the news of a brain tumor at the time, and you just started. So it's not about, I need a lot to get going.
It's about having an idea, passion, and believe in whatever you want to do. Because honestly, I won't say that yes, it is difficult sometimes. Mm-hmm. There are times where, let's just say, because usually we use social media to ask for help. Then someone will say, come and collect. We don't even have transport. Now you have to go around asking for assistance. Sometimes you end up losing that sponsor. Okay. So it's not about what you have. It's about what you believe in and what you want to achieve.
Yeah. What does Linzwa stand for?
It's love, inspiration, needs, zeal, work, and acknowledgement of whoever is assisting us.
And I'm pleased I asked the question because when I saw that you had found out Linzwa, I said, I don't know what this word means. And it's a very deep, profound name. And your basis, you say, is love.
Yes.
It begins with
love.
Yeah. But, you know, Mark, when you hear, like now, we're in stage 6 of Rolling Breaker since 4 o'clock. We had a little bit of lower stages. You're thinking, okay, maybe there's something is happening and stuff like that. It's really hard sometimes to really get out of that negative spiral that we find about our ill. I mean, we complain a lot, and there's no point in complaining.
No, well, there is a point in complaining and there is a point in criticism, but we mustn't stop at complaint and at criticism. You know, we're in a country that sits with the benefit of a constitution which gives us freedom, which gives us rights. You mentioned earlier on that everybody in this country has a right to sufficient food. You know, we have to use that power that was fought for in our democracy. But it is difficult, Dan. I mean, life is very, very hard for probably 80% of people in this country, and that is why we have to have strategies that lift people out of a sense of despair and depression and that can give people inspiration to act. The country is not going to be saved by critique and criticism. It's going to be saved when we show that there's a better way and that there are people who are building towards that better way.
Yeah, how do you get your positive spirit up, Lindiwe, every day when you are in that community of yours where people are hungry, as you were saying, and the numbers are growing? Where young people are caught up in drugs, some of them are trying to get out of it, and you got women who are being survivors of gender-based violence.
It starts with appreciating the gift of life, because each and every day I take it as a blessing. When I go to sleep, I don't know whether I will wake up. When I wake up, I say, thank you, God. Now I need to return the favor by doing something good. So it starts with appreciating.
So your faith helps you to keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the people that are assisting, because there are people that come in and assist, and then you think that if there are people who come in as volunteers, then you see that, no, you need to.
Yeah, you know, there's a saying, and Mark will know it very well, that they say good news does not sell. I'm talking about the media space. And that good news does not sell because people want to read the horrible stuff stories all the time. It's that trick that we have to find, not just as media, but as media particularly, but just as people, to say every day, try and have this balanced outlook, because you could be kind to somebody today and save a life, Mike.
Absolutely. I mean, you can be kind today and save a life. You can be kind today and inspire someone, give somebody some energy, some power, some belief in themselves. You can do small things which have a big impact. Sometimes you can't see the impact. It has a ripple effect. But if we are going to solve our problems as a country, we have to connect with each other again. We have to see each other. We have to smile at each other. We have to recognize the problems that each other face. We have to do things without the expectation of immediate gratification, but just for the joy of being people of South Africa in a wonderful country with wonderful possibility.
And we've had those moments in our country. You know, we were chatting earlier on with the managing editor at eNCA, John Bailey, about UDF, the United Democratic Front. I'm not bringing in politics, but it's going to be 40th anniversary in August. When we go back to that time in the 80s, under a very difficult time ahead of the state of emergency in the middle 80s, South Africans of all walks of life, all colors and hues, and came together to say we are united against apartheid. Maybe that's the kind of approach that we need. Where is support lacking currently for the NGO sector, like for Linzwa Foundation?
I will honestly say we are not supported.
You are not supported?
We are not supported at all. Because even when the call for proposal come on the government side, they will say they want NGOs. We are NPOs. And honestly, for us, there is no difference.
I mean,
From what we're taught,
everybody is non-governmental. If you're an NPO, you're not for profit, but you're not governmental.
That's where the confusion is. Luckily, we went for capacity building training by AIDS Foundation. And that's when we're taught that there's no difference at all.
Yeah.
But they keep on saying, no, we want NGOs. So now you don't even know where to go. Because
in the private sector?
And the private sector.
Corporate South Africa?
I will say Genmark. There are people like Genmark who comes in. But to be honest, we can get assistance like food or anything, but we do need funding because people that are volunteering, they need to buy food for their families. Also, to collect some of the things, you need petrol. Anything needs money. Anything needs money. And when it comes to drugs, that's a very touchy subject to me. Because we are dealing with, it's touching because most of the young people are like dying because of drugs. We have about 28 youth that came to us and say,
and what area of KZN is that?
KwaDlangezwa.
KwaDlangezwa.
Okay. But if you go to Richards Bay, I even call it a village because it's about 400 people that are living there. They've built their own houses with plastic and papers. 400. They live there and they deal with drugs from the morning and the afternoon. And you find that there's a person who's dressed like you, wearing a suit, who is selling to them. And I don't think that no one knows about those places.
Now, Mark, when you just hear Lindiwe there about the depth, I mean, we're going to be concluding our discussion shortly. When you hear about the depth of the challenge, I mean, the kinds of challenges of the country, I mean, we shouldn't lose hope, as they say, but where do we get the light from?
Well, at this moment, and this is the theme of our discussion, we get the light from each other. We get the light from recognizing, you know, the power of people, the self-sacrifice of people, the beauty often of our neighbors in whatever circumstances they are. But Dan, listening to Lindiwe, you can't get away from politics. So we have to be fixing things, but we also have to be calling things out. We also have to be demanding accountability. You know, the real saviors of our country are people like Lindiwe and many others on the front lines, working with young people, working with gender-based violence victims, and so on, with almost nothing. And we will do things for nothing because what inspires us is this mission to fix the country. But we're not a country that doesn't have resources, that couldn't be providing finances. You know, my editorial last week was exposing the fact that we've paid 77 million rand to represent Qedani Mahlangu and the people who were guilty of the Life Esidimeni deaths. The taxpayer has paid 77 million rand for their expensive lawyers, but there's no money for community-based organizations. We paid 93 million rand to fix the houses of cabinet ministers, but we're told that there's no money for our hospitals, so babies are being put in cardboard boxes soon after birth. So this is what we're saying in this discussion is not that we mustn't talk about politics, accountability, transparency, good governance, good use of money, but that we have to combine that with the energy that comes from people who tackle the problems directly.
I mean, it's our role to question and call out those people in terms of accountability to enable us to think about what are the possible actions, which, I mean, currently that's the new positioning of eNCA channel, you know, question, think and act. Because if we don't, as you said, Mark, then we're letting ourselves down in terms of the future. Are you hopeful, Sis Lindiwe, about the future? I mean, 400 people living in a newly built village, as you call it, in your area in KZN, and nothing is happening, and men in suits wearing suits like mine, selling drugs to the young people, and no action is taken by the police.
I am hopeful. I am, because I am one person who don't believe in complaining. I always say that complaining won't sort out problems, but try and do something about it. So I strongly believe that it's about time that, because the youth can see now what's happening. We just need someone who will listen to our cry and come forward and say we are going to assist.
Yeah. So just do something. I mean, Mark, what is our role then? I mean, if somebody was listening to this, okay, what do I take out? What do I do next? I mean, because some people say, but where do I start? I mean, I can't do it by myself. And many of us, I'm also including myself in this, we're living in our comfort zones.
Yeah, you step outside your front door, look at the space around you and work out in that space, where is the need? Where could I provide assistance? Is it the local school? Is it the people who are homeless? Is it the need of young people for some sort of rehabilitation, some sort of support for drug addiction? Just look and then find ways of talking to other people. If you're not certain what to do, there is people like Lindiwe who can say, there's this organization that you could support, or there's this particular action that you could do. It's difficult. I mean, the question that you ask is a question many, many people ask. Where do we volunteer? And sometimes it's more difficult to give an answer to that question than you would like. But persevere, because it will change you and it ultimately will change the country. Okay,
we are coming to the end now. Linda, I'm going to give you just quickly, just if there's anything else that we haven't touched on that you feel is important to put on the table. As we say, we need, as the media, for example, to give a priority to the good news stories as well. What is your parting thought, just generally, around the issue of where do we light up the hope for the country?
I will start with our leaders. I think they need to work with the people that are on the ground, people who are working with the community, because we know what's happening. We know what our community needs. And also, my plea again will be with the media, because honestly, all we hear about, it's bad stories, it's sad news, as if nothing good is happening. Maybe once in a while, share good stories.
Okay. Mark, parting words?
Thank you, Dan, for having this discussion. I think that's very important to try and
but shift. It can't be a once-off.
But it shouldn't be a once-off. My parting words is there is hope. There is power that people have. And the other thing I'd like to say is that there are solutions to all of our problems. And people who are working in communities are often the people with the best knowledge about what the solution is. And we've got to go back down into communities. Those are the people who built our country, built our cities. They have the ideas, and we have to find a way to harness the ideas and the solutions which are already taking place on a small scale in the country and turn them onto a mass scale.
Mark, Maverick Citizen Editor, and Lindiwe, the founder of Linzwa Foundation, that is based on love. This foundation is love. Thank you very much for your time here this afternoon. Earlier we were joined as well by the good guys thing, Brent Lindeque, but he had another engagement. He had to leave us a little bit earlier. There you have it. You can do something. You can contribute to light up more hope in our country, and hey, we need it. We can't lose it.